Star Trek had been canceled, so was my marriage, so I didn't have any money.
A friendship between two men is so strange to American audience.
For decades, fans thought the adventures of the Starship Enterprise were all about unity, friendship, and courage. But behind those shiny episodes, things got heated. Egos clashed, tempers flared, and tensions simmered until it nearly tore the crew apart. At the center of it all was William Shatner, the man who was Captain Kirk, living through both the fame and the chaos that made the show legendary. Now, in his later years, Shatner opens up with shocking honesty about those wild days, revealing a truth far different from the heroic space tales that enchanted the world. His life wasn't just about stardom. It started with drama from day one. Born in Montreal, Canada, on March 22, 1931, right in the middle of a record-breaking snowstorm, even his entrance into the world had flair. His mother had no choice but to give birth at home since the roads were buried under snow. Talk about an unpredictable start. From the beginning, Shatner's story felt destined for drama, almost like fate was setting the stage for him. By just 8 years old, he was attending a children's acting school run by a well-known Canadian actress, already learning how to command attention. At 10, he was performing professionally in CBC radio dramas like The Magic Flute, proving he wasn't just another kid with big dreams. He had real talent. Soon after, he wowed critics as Tom Sawyer in a local stage play, earning praise for his natural stage presence. But Shatner's school life wasn't smooth sailing. At McGill University in 1948, he studied economics to keep his parents happy, though his heart clearly wasn't in it. Years later, he admitted he barely showed up to lectures, finding his real spark in the campus theater instead. By 1950, he wrote and starred in a student play that became such a hit it caught the attention of CBC producers, and that led to his first TV appearance. One small step for Shatner, one giant leap toward his screen career. In 1956, he made his boldest move yet, packing up and heading straight to New York City to chase acting full-time. He hit Broadway with Tamburlaine the Great, and even though the show only lasted 20 performances, it was a major turning point. A young Canadian with no formal training had landed on the New York stage. That's guts. From there, Shatner started stacking up TV roles across America in the late 50s and early 60s, popping up in shows like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Defenders, and The Outer Limits. But it was his unforgettable appearances on The Twilight Zone, especially the 1963 episode Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, that proved he could deliver intense, nerve-wracking performances. Watching him unravel under pressure was pure magic. That raw talent for showing tension and barely contained panic became the secret weapon that turned William Shatner into the legendary Captain Kirk. By 1965, he was a familiar face on television, hustling from one role to another. But no one, not even him, knew he was about to land the part that would define his entire career. At the time, Star Trek already had a captain, Jeffrey Hunter as Christopher Pike in the original pilot, The Cage. But NBC executives weren't impressed. They said the show was too slow, too intellectual, and not exciting enough to keep audiences hooked. Instead of scrapping the idea altogether, they made a bold move and ordered a second pilot. Hunter decided not to return, supposedly to chase movie roles, though Shatner later hinted that the story was messier than that. Maybe there was more drama behind the scenes than anyone wanted to admit. With the captain's chair suddenly wide open, producers turned their eyes to Shatner. When they showed him the rejected pilot, he admired its look and ambition, but thought the acting was too stiff, way too formal. He believed the captain of a starship needed charm and humanity. When Shatner took command as James T. Kirk in 1966, he completely reshaped the character. Bold, confident, and adventurous, yet still easy to relate to. He wanted Kirk to feel real, a man who could face the unknown with fearless curiosity, but still crack a smile while doing it. Instead of shouting robotic orders, Kirk could lean toward his helmsman and say with casual cool, "Take us left, George." That little bit of swagger made him stand out from all the buttoned-up military-style heroes on TV at the time. To craft Kirk's personality, Shatner borrowed inspiration from two larger-than-life figures, Horatio Hornblower the brilliant naval hero, and Alexander the Great, whom Shatner had once played in a failed 1963 pilot. He fused Hornblower's intellect with Alexander's charisma and power, then sprinkled in humor to round out the edges. Shatner insisted that Kirk shouldn't just be tough, he should be someone people liked. That gamble changed everything. When Star Trek hit TV screens in September 1966, audiences were instantly drawn to Captain Kirk's mix of courage, wit, and optimism. During a decade filled with chaos and uncertainty, Kirk became a symbol of hope and bold leadership. And Shatner's performance made sure he would never be forgotten. Even as Star Trek built a loyal fan base and captured hearts across the world, life behind the cameras was anything but peaceful. For William Shatner, being Captain Kirk didn't just mean leading a starship. It meant battling real-world rivalries that could have ripped the cast apart. Fights, feuds, and even acts of sabotage lurked behind those futuristic sets. While audiences saw teamwork, laughter, and unity on screen, the truth behind the scenes was pure chaos. Shatner's ambition burned bright, sometimes too bright. His endless script rewrites, need for control, and determination to stay in the spotlight rubbed his co-stars the wrong way. That drive for dominance made him both a leader and a lightning rod for tension. Fans at home had no clue that the deep bonds they saw between Kirk, Spock, and the crew were being tested by jealousy and resentment just a few feet off camera. One of the earliest explosions came during the filming of The Man Trap in September 1966. Leonard Nimoy, whose character Spock was unexpectedly stealing the spotlight, suddenly found himself in a silent war with Shatner. Rumor has it, Shatner couldn't stand that Spock was becoming the fan favorite. In a fit of ego, he reportedly stepped right into Nimoy's shots 17 times. 17! Each time, the scene had to be reshot, wasting film, time, and patience. The director blew up in anger, and Nimoy came dangerously close to walking off set entirely. That was the first real crack in Star Trek's image of perfect harmony. And it didn't stop there. By March 1968, tensions hit another boiling point while filming The Paradise Syndrome. Shatner and Nimoy went head-to-head in a fiery argument about how Kirk's memory loss should be played. Shatner pushed for raw emotion and high drama, while Nimoy demanded restraint and subtlety. The fight got so intense it shut down filming for hours until creator Gene Roddenberry had to personally step in and break it up. Even the writers weren't spared from the drama. During the Trouble with Tribbles in 1967, both Shatner and Nimoy reportedly locked themselves in for a grueling 14-hour rewrite session, chopping lines, reshaping dialogue, and, according to whispers, cutting out other characters' best moments just to make more room for themselves. By the third season, the cast started joking, half seriously, about calling it the Shatner-Nimoy Show. The ego wars had become part of the show's DNA, and even the groundbreaking moments came with backstage tension. In 1968's Plato's Stepchildren, Shatner and Nichelle Nichols made history with American television's first interracial kiss. But that powerful moment didn't come easy. Behind the smiles and applause, there was anxiety, debate, and pressure from executives who weren't ready for such a bold move. Still, Shatner pushed forward, proving that even in chaos, he knew how to make history. Shatner reportedly grew nervous about how audiences might react to that daring on-screen kiss and even asked to shoot a version without it. But Nichelle Nichols wasn't backing down. She knew how powerful that moment could be and refused to let it be erased. Together, she and Shatner pulled a clever move. They intentionally messed up every single take that didn't include the kiss, forcing the studio's hand until the historic version was the only one left to air. That kiss wasn't just a TV moment. It was a cultural earthquake that still gets talked about today. But behind those bold choices, life on set was brutal. The Star Trek production schedule was relentless. Episodes often ran between 16 to 22 hours of filming. Everyone was stretched thin, tempers short, and exhaustion hit hard. In October 1968, during the filming of the Tholian Web, even Shatner, the captain himself, hit his breaking point. After nearly 18 hours on set, he reportedly threw his script across the room and flat out refused to keep filming until he was given a break. Even Captain Kirk had limits, and the grind was starting to crush him. And while Shatner led the Enterprise with unshakable confidence on screen, his personal life was falling apart behind the scenes. The pressure didn't just weigh on his shoulders, it tore right through his home life. His marriage to Canadian actress Gloria Rand had started in 1956, full of hope and promise. They had 3 beautiful daughters: Leslie, born in 1958, Elizabeth in 1961, and Melanie in 1964. But by the end of the decade, Star Trek had swallowed nearly every bit of his time and energy. The non-stop filming schedule left no space for family. Shatner would leave for makeup before dawn and stumble home well after midnight. Between 1966 and 1969, he later confessed to missing a staggering 217 family dinners. On Christmas Day in 1967, while most families were exchanging gifts under the tree, Shatner was on set, shooting reshoots for the Gamesters of Triskelion, and on April 12, 1968, he missed his daughter Elizabeth's school play because he was once again locked in a rewrite session with Leonard Nimoy. Each absence drove the wedge deeper. Gloria's patience slowly wore down. Birthdays came and went without him, holidays passed in silence, and weekends together became a fading memory. The man known for commanding starships couldn't seem to steer his own family life back on course. Years later, in a 2018 interview, Shatner openly admitted that the guilt from that period still haunts him. In June 1969, just weeks after Star Trek was canceled, Gloria filed for divorce, saying his constant absences and emotional distance had left her raising their children on her own. It was a harsh ending to what once looked like a perfect story, and a reminder that behind the fame and the fantasy, even a starship captain couldn't escape the toll of ambition. The timing couldn't have been harsher. Just as William Shatner's family life crumbled, his career crashed right alongside it. He had sacrificed everything: his home, his marriage, and his peace, for a role that suddenly didn't exist anymore. When Star Trek ended, instead of returning to a warm home full of love and laughter, he walked into silence, an empty house, and 3 daughters now living with their mother, Gloria, in Beverly Hills. He tried to reconnect, to fix what fame had broken, but most of those efforts ended in heartbreak. Later, Shatner revealed he counted 47 weekends, 47 missed chances to be a father. Those numbers haunted him. The man who symbolized strength and command on screen was, in reality, a father and husband watching the most meaningful parts of his life slip away before his eyes. And once the cameras stopped rolling, the real fight for survival began. This time, not among the stars, but right here on Earth. When Star Trek was canceled in 1969 after just 3 seasons, Shatner's world fell apart almost overnight. The show had a small but passionate fan base, yet not nearly enough to save it. Once it was gone, Shatner ran headfirst into one of Hollywood's cruelest traps: typecasting. Casting directors didn't see him as a talented actor anymore. They saw only Captain Kirk. Every door he knocked on came with the same unspoken rejection. He wasn't right for anything else. By the early 1970s, the work had dried up. The man once called the next Marlon Brando was now fighting just to keep food on the table. Desperate to survive, he took whatever jobs he could get. Low-budget horror flicks, cheap action thrillers, and exploitation films like Big Bad Mama, The Devil's Reign, and Kingdom of the Spiders. These weren't career makers. They were lifelines. Barely enough to pay rent and keep his name alive. While his daughters lived comfortably with Gloria in Beverly Hills, Shatner was scraping by in the shadows. At his lowest point, he was so broke he lived out of a camper parked in the San Fernando Valley. He later called it That Period, a chapter too painful for him to describe in detail. It was a fall from grace that felt almost cinematic. Hollywood's golden captain now struggling just to stay afloat. To make ends meet, he showed up at small-town events, minor conventions, and random parties, anything that paid. Sometimes, when Christmas came around, he couldn't even afford gifts for his daughters. So he'd wrap up old Star Trek memorabilia, like his phaser prop, and give it to them as presents, pretending it was part of the magic rather than the struggle. That kind of quiet humiliation never left him. It scarred him for decades. But just when it seemed like Shatner's star had completely burned out, fate took an unexpected turn. In 1977, Star Wars burst into theaters and reignited the world's obsession with space. And suddenly, there was a brand new wave of excitement and a second chance waiting for the man who once commanded the Enterprise. Paramount wasn't about to miss its moment. When Star Wars took over the box office, the studio realized it already had its own space empire just waiting to rise again: Star Trek. By 1979, the long-awaited Star Trek. The motion picture hit theaters with a jaw-dropping $35 million budget, one of the priciest films ever made at that time. And there he was again, 48-year-old William Shatner, back in uniform as Captain James T. Kirk. He dropped 25 pounds through a brutal diet and was determined to reclaim the career that had slipped through his fingers. The movie pulled in $139 million worldwide, not exactly a blockbuster by modern standards, but enough to prove one thing loud and clear: Star Trek still had power. But the true comeback didn't arrive until 1982 with Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. The sequel had a smaller budget, which meant tighter writing, deeper emotion, and storytelling with bite. Shatner's Kirk was no longer the invincible hero. He was older, more fragile, and wrestling with regret. That vulnerability hit audiences hard. Critics praised his performance, calling it one of his best. And just like that, the man who'd once been broke and living in a camper was suddenly back on top, commanding not just a ship, but a legacy. By the mid-1980s, William Shatner had completely rebuilt his name. The Star Trek films gave him new life, but he didn't stop there. He jumped into a fresh TV role, Sergeant Thomas Jefferson Hooker in T.J. Hooker. This time, he traded a starship for a police badge, showing the world he could still lead, whether in deep space or on the streets. The show pulled solid ratings, reminding audiences that Shatner wasn't a one-note actor. He was a powerhouse who could reinvent himself again and again. Off camera, though, his drive bordered on obsession. He pushed himself past the limit, doing many of his own stunts just to prove he could still keep up. The physical toll was brutal: broken ribs, concussions, and the start of chronic back pain that would shadow him for the rest of his life. But Shatner refused to slow down. He wanted to be unstoppable. Still, Star Trek was both his redemption and his curse. No matter how high he climbed, the ghosts of the past followed. Behind the smiles at fan conventions, old grudges lingered. George Takei, James Doohan, and others spoke publicly about his overbearing attitude on set. Shatner later admitted that much of it came from insecurity. He always feared losing control or being forgotten. And the tension with Leonard Nimoy, his closest friend and rival, remained a complex mix of admiration and unspoken resentment. They worked side by side, clashed behind the scenes, and sometimes went months without speaking. William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy shared a bond that was both creative and combustible, true friends and rivals all at once. By the time Nimoy passed away in 2015, the two had sadly grown distant. Shatner later called that loss one of the deepest regrets of his entire life, a wound that never really healed. But Shatner's story didn't end there. In 2004, he found a whole new chapter with Boston Legal, where he played the eccentric and unpredictable Denny Crane. The role let him blend comedy and tragedy in a way no one expected, and he nailed it. The performance earned him 2 Emmy Awards and reminded the world that Shatner wasn't just Captain Kirk. He was a powerhouse actor with endless range. Still, success came with scars. Decades on loud, chaotic sets had left him with partial hearing loss. Years of stunts and grueling shoots gave him severe arthritis and constant back pain. But even through the pain, Shatner kept moving forward, his spirit unbroken, his humor intact. In later interviews, he revealed that what really haunted him wasn't the pain, but the loneliness. That quiet fear of being forgotten after a lifetime of chasing the spotlight weighed heavier than any injury. Now, in his 90s, William Shatner speaks with a raw honesty that few celebrities ever reach. He openly acknowledges the chaos that brewed behind the Star Trek cameras, the feuds, the ego wars, the constant power struggles, and admits much of it came from his own hunger to keep the show alive. "I failed sometimes," he said plainly, "but I was always trying to keep the show alive." Those words show the man behind the legend, a man who carried both brilliance and burden in equal measure. The fearless Captain Kirk, once the symbol of courage and leadership, was off-screen just as human as the rest of us, flawed, driven, and haunted by what fame cost him. That's what makes his story so powerful today. Shatner's life reminds us that even legends carry their own scars, and that the heroes we admire often fight their toughest battles when no one's watching. Now, at 93, he's finally letting fans see the truth. Not just the captain in gold, but the man beneath the uniform. The one who dared, stumbled, rose again, and paid the price for greatness. So, what do you think? Was William Shatner unfairly judged by his castmates, or did his ambition truly make him the villain on the Star Trek set? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and drop your opinion for more untold stories from Hollywood's most iconic legends.